I'd spent all Saturday afternoon making Sarah's favorite lasagna from scratch, stringing up fairy lights on my flat's balcony, and lining up a playlist of songs from when we first started dating 3 years ago. It was our anniversary. I'd even recorded a new song just for her, my most personal track yet. Honestly, I was feeling pretty proud of myself. Then Sarah walked through the door, not alone, but with her sister Emma and her colleague Claire trailing behind. I was just pulling garlic bread from the oven when I heard 3 voices instead of one. I stepped out holding the pan. And there they were, Sarah, Emma, and Claire, all staring at my anniversary setup like I'd thrown a party for a toddler's birthday. "Hey, I made plenty if you're hungry," I said, trying to keep it light. Sarah glanced at the fairy lights, spotted my laptop open with a file named New Song for S, and rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Oh God, not another one of your grand gestures," she muttered. Then, turning to her friends like I wasn't even there, she said, "He spent all afternoon on this instead of looking at the job ads I sent him. Still playing rock star, not growing up." Emma was glued to her phone. Claire picked at her nails. The room went silent. Then Sarah caught sight of the laptop screen. "Jesus, Jake, did you write another song? What are you, 16? This is childish. When are you going to grow up and get a proper job? Stop wasting your time with that stupid band." But what really hit me wasn't just the words. It was the casual cruelty, like she'd been rehearsing these lines for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. Like every song I'd written, every gig I'd played, every bit of me that made me who I was just some embarrassing phase she'd been tolerating. I set the garlic bread down slowly and looked her straight in the eye. "You're right about one thing. It is time to grow up." She smirked, thinking she'd won. I walked to the laptop, closed the song file without playing it, and started unplugging the fairy lights one by one. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, losing her confident edge. "Growing up," I said. "You just taught me that the most childish thing I've been doing is trying to get approval from someone who doesn't respect me." I packed the lasagna into containers and pulled out my phone. "Since we're not celebrating anything and you have guests, I'll keep it simple. Pepperoni or cheese?" Sarah and her friends exchanged confused glances. This wasn't the script she'd written in her head. That night, after they left, Sarah tried the usual damage control. "I had a stressful day. You're overreacting." "I didn't mean it like that. I just think you could do more with your talents." "I heard you perfectly the first time," I said. "Message received. Band is childish. Music is a waste of time. Got it. So here's what's going to change. Nothing about me. Everything about us." She laughed it off. "Maybe it's time we both got realistic about priorities." Those words would come back to haunt her sooner than she thought. Sunday morning, Sarah wandered out of the bedroom expecting her usual coffee, oat milk, 1 sugar, a sprinkle of cinnamon, the ritual I'd kept up for 3 years without fail. I was sitting in the living room, guitar resting on my lap, fingers tracing out a new chord progression when she appeared in the doorway. "Coffee's in the kitchen," I said without looking up. She stood there, waiting for me to jump up like I always did, but I kept playing. "Are you serious right now?" she asked, voice edged with disbelief. "I'm serious about not being childish anymore," I said. "Making your coffee was something I wanted to do when it was appreciated. You made it clear appreciation's not happening, so neither is the coffee service." She huffed, made her own coffee, and stood by the window watching me play, arms crossed tight like she was trying to hold back a storm. "I've got brunch with the Porters today. You're coming, right?" I checked my phone. Band practice was at 2. Brunch ended at 1:30. "If you're on time, sure." "Since when do you skip practice for my events?" she shot back. "Since I stopped being childish and prioritizing a relationship where only one person compromises." For 3 years I'd been the one bending, skipping rehearsals when she wanted to do something, turning down gigs that clashed with her plans, keeping my guitar tucked away so it didn't clutter the flat, wearing my band tees only when she wasn't around. I'd been erasing myself to fit her idea of acceptable, but that version of me was gone. That Sunday afternoon, after brunch ended and I headed for practice, something shifted, though I didn't know it yet. I returned 6 hours later to find Sarah slumped on the sofa, staring blankly at her phone, but not really seeing it. "How was practice?" she asked softly. It was the first time in months she'd asked. "Good. We're working on new material." "Oh, that's nice," she said, then hesitated. "The Porters asked about you at brunch, when they'd see you at one of our things again. What did you tell them? That you've been busy with the band?" Another pause. "Karen said her husband wishes he'd kept up with his college band. Gave it up when they got serious, and he regrets it sometimes." I studied her carefully. This wasn't the usual script. "And what did you say to that?" "Nothing. I just smiled." She finally looked up at me. "Do you regret being with me?" I shook my head. "I regret spending 3 years apologizing for who I am, but that's on me, not you. You were clear about what you wanted. I just kept hoping you'd change your mind." She went quiet. I picked up my guitar and headed to the spare room, which I decided would no longer be called the spare room. It was my music room now. My gear was coming out of hiding. Monday lunchtime, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Having lunch with Brad from finance. Remember him? Just made VP at 30. We should grab drinks with him and Melissa sometime." Old me would have been jealous, insecure, peppering her with questions like an overzealous detective. "New me." I texted back at 1:23. "That's nice." No follow-up, no fuss. Just acknowledgement. That evening, I started reclaiming my space. My amp emerged from the cramped closet in the spare room. My backup guitar found a stand in the living room corner, polished and proud. The poster from our first paid gig, the one Sarah made me take down 2 years ago, went back up in the hallway. The faded edges told stories of a younger me, full of hope and reckless dreams. Sarah came home, brows furrowed, spotting the changes. "What are you doing?" "Reclaiming space. This is my home, too. My things deserve to be here." She eyed the poster skeptically. "That looks juvenile. To you, maybe. To me, it's a reminder of the first time someone paid us to play. That matters." Her gaze flicked to the guitar stand in the corner. "That's going to be in the way." I shrugged. "Then walk around it." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. The old playbook wasn't working anymore. I wasn't negotiating my existence in this space. Throughout the week, Sarah tried subtle digs, mentioning her ex, reaching out on Instagram, bragging about her friend's husband's promotion, talking about the new guy in accounting who kept stopping by her desk. Each time, my reply was the same. "That's interesting." Then I'd return to my lyrics notebook, lost in chords and rhymes. By Friday, desperation crept in. "You don't even care that Brad invited me to a work dinner tomorrow, just the two of us." "Should I?" "You're an adult. You can have dinner with whoever you want." She stormed off. This wasn't working. That Friday night, my band, Midnight Theory, had a gig at the Basement East, a dive bar known for its sticky floors and rowdy crowds. It was our biggest turnout in months. In the past, I'd have begged Sarah to come, even though she always refused or agreed and then didn't show up. I'd text her during setup, scan the crowd hoping to spot her, and come home disappointed. This time, I said nothing. I left before she got home from work. On stage, I was electric, present, confident. Marcus, our drummer, caught me during a breakdown. "Man, where's this energy been? You're on fire tonight." Just stopped performing for the wrong audience, I said with a grin. When I got home around 1 a.m., Sarah was awake, waiting. You had a show tonight, she said. Yep. You didn't tell me. You made it clear you think it's childish, didn't want to bother you with childish activities. I would have come. I looked her in the eye. No, you wouldn't have, and that's fine. I stopped expecting you to show up for the things that matter to me around the same time you stopped pretending to care. Week 2 kicked off with Sarah dialing up the jealousy like a broken radio. Every conversation spun around a new man. Brad this, her ex that, a surgeon her friend married, the accountant who lingered a little too long by her desk. She was fishing, hoping for a reaction. What she got was a cool, "That's interesting," and my attention snapping right back to my battered lyrics notebook. By Thursday she was blatant. Brad invited me to dinner tomorrow, just the two of us. You really don't care? Nope. What if I go and have fun? I could see her losing her grip. The guy who used to bend over backward for her approval had vanished, replaced by someone who didn't need her validation to feel whole. Thursday night I met up with Tommy O'Malley, my old college bandmate who'd quit music when he got engaged. We met at a Greasy Spoon pub downtown, beers sweating in our hands. Man, I miss it, he muttered, staring into his glass like it held the answers. Every time I hear a good bass line, it hits me in the chest, like there's a hole where something used to be. Why'd you quit? Sarah said it was time to be realistic. Music's a college thing, not a marriage thing. She wasn't mean, just practical. Tommy laughed bitterly. Sold my gear to pay for the wedding. Thought I was being mature. Are you happy? He shrugged. Comfortable, stable. That's not the same, is it? I told him everything. Sarah, the anniversary disaster, how I'd finally stopped shrinking myself. He nodded, serious. Don't make my mistake, Jake. Don't give up the thing that makes you you. Once it's gone, you spend every day wondering who you could have been, and that wondering poisons everything. We talked until last call. When I got home, Sarah was waiting. Where were you? Talking with Tommy about regrets. So he's trying to convince you to choose music over me. He's reminding me that choosing myself isn't choosing against you. It's refusing to choose against myself. The following Saturday, Marcus's wife, Angela, dropped by. Sarah invited her, probably hoping for backup. I was in the bedroom, practicing acoustic. The door cracked open. I caught every word. I don't know what's wrong with him, Sarah said. He's so cold. Won't engage with anything I do. Maybe he's finally listening to what you've been saying for months, Angela replied. What do you mean? You've been clear the band's a waste of time, childish, immature, a hobby for teenagers. Marcus told me you made Jake take down the band posters so the flat wouldn't look like a student house. I just think he could do more with his life. He is doing something with his life, doing what he loves. Marcus has a family, a day job, and makes the band work because he respects it. You wanted Jake to give up the thing that makes him who he is. Now he's giving up you instead, and somehow you're surprised. There was a long silence. I didn't want him to give up the band entirely. Then what? Because from where I'm sitting, you wanted a trained puppy who looks like a musician but acts like a corporate drone. You can't have both versions of Jake. You get the guy who plays music or you get nobody. Angela left soon after. Sarah said nothing to me about the conversation, but I saw the wheels turning. Reality had been handed to her by someone else, and this time she couldn't shrug it off. The next day at band practice, I brought 3 new songs I'd written over the past couple of weeks. Marcus listened intently to the first one, then stopped me mid-verse. Dude, what happened to you? He asked, eyes wide. What do you mean? This is the best stuff you've written in years, maybe ever. It's raw, honest. Where's this coming from? I thought for a moment. I stopped editing myself. Stopped worrying whether my lyrics were too emotional or too personal. Stopped censoring what I felt just because someone might think it was childish. Marcus nodded slowly. The Sarah filter is off. Completely off. We ran through all 3 songs. The band clicked tighter than it had in months. There was a fire in every chord, a hunger in every beat. When we finished, Alex, our keyboard player, grinned. If we can record tracks like these, we might actually have something. It hit me then. Sarah hadn't just been trying to control my life. She'd been controlling my art. Every song I'd written in the past 2 years had been carefully watered down, safe enough that if she ever listened, she wouldn't roll her eyes. I'd been playing it safe in every part of my life. That ended now. That Friday night, Sarah tried a different tactic. She dressed in the outfit from our first date, a sleek black dress that hugged her curves just right, paired with heels that clicked softly as she walked. Candles flickered in the bedroom, and the soft notes of our old song played quietly from the speakers. I walked in from band practice and took it all in. "Going somewhere special?" I asked, arching an eyebrow. "I thought we could have a nice night together," she said, voice tentative. "Like we used to when my music was charming instead of childish." Her words deflated instantly when she saw my expression. "Can't you just forget I said that?" she pleaded. "I can forget it," I said softly, "but I can't unfeel what it taught me. You showed me exactly what you think of the thing I'm most passionate about. I heard you loud and clear. Now you get to experience what it's like to be with someone who heard you." She tried to initiate intimacy, but I was there in body only. No emotion, no connection, just going through the motions. Afterwards, lying in the dark, she whispered, "What happened to us?" "You got your wish," I said. "I grew up." Turns out, growing up means recognizing when someone wants to shrink you down to fit their idea of acceptable. I'm done shrinking. 2 days later, Sarah told me she was going to dinner with Brad. She watched my face closely before mentioning it, searching for any flicker of jealousy or concern. "Have a good time," I said, genuinely meaning it. She came home around 11, a little tipsy, clearly expecting me to be upset. "I brought some wine," she announced from the doorway. "That's nice," I replied, eyes still on my notebook. "He's really successful. Just bought a flat downtown." "Good for him." He asked why I'm with someone who plays in bars for beer money. That should have stung. Old me would have been crushed. I looked up briefly. "What did you tell him?" She seemed surprised by my calm. "You were more than that." "Were you lying to him or to yourself?" I asked. "What? Did you defend me because you believe it, or because admitting you agree with him would make you look shallow?" She had no answer. She'd gone to dinner hoping to make me jealous, to reassert her value in my eyes. Instead, she'd spent the evening with a man who validated all her criticisms of me, and it left her feeling empty instead of vindicated. "He wasn't interesting," she said quietly. "He talked about quarterly earnings for 40 minutes. But he's successful." "Yeah. And that's what matters, right? Being successful in ways other people can measure." She left the doorway without another word. I went back to my lyrics, scribbling furiously about authenticity versus approval. The words practically wrote themselves. 3 weeks into my new life, everything changed. Derek Walsh, a producer who'd caught our show at The Basement East, called me at work. Midnight. "Theory's sound is exactly what I'm looking for," he said. "I want to record a 4-song EP in a professional studio. Book you for a regional tour across 3 states over 6 weeks, and possibly shop you to indie labels." We'd start recording in December, tour in January and February. This was the opportunity I'd waited 8 years for. I said yes immediately. No hesitation, no consulting Sarah first. 2 weeks later, our first recording session was electric. 8 hours in the studio, and Derek kept saying, "That's the take. Don't change a thing." During a break, he pulled me aside. "I've been producing for 15 years. I can always tell when someone's playing free versus playing scared. Last month at your show, you were playing free. That's why I called. Today, you're even freer. What changed?" "I stopped trying to make myself smaller," I said. He nodded knowingly. "Every artist I've worked with who made it big had one thing in common. They stopped giving a damn about looking foolish. They committed fully to what they were creating. You're doing that now. Don't lose it." That night, when I got home, Sarah asked how it went. For a moment, I almost shared the excitement, the validation. Then I remembered she'd never asked about studio sessions before, never cared when it mattered. "It went well," I said simply, heading for the shower. I heard her in the living room, probably waiting for me to elaborate like I used to, talking for hours, starved for someone to share with. That guy was gone. The new me knew better than to offer his passion to someone who'd spent 3 years calling it childish. The following week, Sarah dropped a bombshell at breakfast. "My parents want to do Christmas at their place this year. I told them we'd be there." I looked up from my coffee. "When?" "Christmas weekend. The whole weekend. They're doing this big extended family thing." I frowned. "I have studio time booked that Saturday." Her face hardened. "Jake, it's Christmas. Family comes first. You didn't ask if I was free. You just told them yes. Normal people put family before hobbies." There it was again. Hobby. Like 8 years of late nights, gigs, and sleepless mornings was some passing phase. "I'll come to Christmas dinner on Friday," I said. "I'll be at the studio on Saturday. My parents will be disappointed." "Well, you should have asked me before making plans for us," she snapped, slamming her mug down. "This is exactly what I mean. You put that band before everything." "No," I said, voice steady. "I put my self-respect before being controlled. You keep testing whether the old boundaries are back. They're not. Make plans for yourself, not for us, and we won't have this problem." She didn't speak to me for 2 days. Then, the night before Christmas Eve, she tried a softer approach. "I'm sorry I didn't ask first. Could you please come Saturday? Just this once for me?" Old me would have caved, called Derek, rescheduled studio time, disappointed the band, chosen temporary peace over long-term respect. Not this time. "No," I said simply. "I'll see your parents Friday. I'll be polite and present. But Saturday I have commitments that matter to me. You'll need to explain that however you want." That Saturday, as I laid down guitar tracks, my phone blew up with texts. Her mom asking about me, her dad wanting to show me something. Everyone missed me. Guilt. 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 I silenced my phone and nailed the solo in one take. About a month after the anniversary fallout, I came home from teaching a guitar lesson to find Sarah sitting at the dining table, papers spread out like a battlefield, job listings, flat lease agreements, articles about musicians who never make it. Her voice was sharp, almost rehearsed. "We need to talk about this ridiculous phase you're going through." I set down my guitar case, grabbed a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. "I'm not going through a phase. I'm going through a transformation." "Big difference," she exploded. "You're punishing me, being petty and vindictive because your feelings got hurt at one dinner." "My feelings got hurt," I said slowly. "Let me get this straight. You called my life's passion childish in front of people, dismissed 8 years of dedication as playing pretend, and now that I've stopped seeking your approval, I'm the petty one? You're taking it too far." "What am I taking too far? Not making your coffee, skipping band practice, hiding my guitar so you don't see it? Which part of respecting myself is too much?" She stood up, voice rising. "You're emotionally withholding. Manipulating me." "Withholding what?" "I'm not withholding anything. I'm just not giving you something you never valued." You can't miss something you always criticized. She paced, the mask slipping. Fine. You want the truth? Sometimes your music stuff made me feel like you cared more about the band than me. Like you needed the stage more than us. It felt desperate. So you felt like you weren't the center of my universe every second of every day? I felt like I was competing with a guitar for your attention. I walked to the window, staring out at the city skyline. Here's what's interesting. I gave you 3 years of proof you were my priority. Skipped practices for your events, turned down gigs for your convenience, hid my equipment so it wouldn't bother you, stopped inviting you to shows after you made it clear they bored you. I bent myself into shapes trying to be both the musician I am and the corporate-approved boyfriend you wanted. I turned back to her, and it was never enough. Because you didn't want a partner with passion. You wanted a partner whose only passion was you. That's not love, that's obsession. And I'm done performing it. Then I asked the question I already knew she couldn't answer. In 3 years, how many times did you come to my shows without me begging? Silence. How many times did you ask about my music because you cared, not because you wanted ammunition to criticize? More silence. How many times did you support something I loved just because I loved it? She couldn't answer. We both knew the number was 0. I show love differently, she finally said. How? By accepting everything I gave without reciprocation. By criticizing who you are. By making me feel guilty for having an identity outside of us. She sat down, forced to face what she'd taken versus what she'd given. So what now? You're just going to stay like this forever? I'm not like anything. I'm just being myself. The guy you met 3 years ago, the one who played guitar, wrote songs, and loved his band. He's still here. You just decided he was embarrassing once you started comparing me to your colleagues' partners. When's the last time you said you were proud of me, about anything music-related? Another silence. Right, so here's the reality. I'm taking that tour. I'm recording that EP. I'm doing what I've always done, except now I'm not apologizing for it. You can decide if you want to be with a musician or not, but the musician isn't changing to fit your embarrassment anymore. After that confrontation, Sarah tried a 3-week redemption act. She started asking about band practice with a forced interest, bought me new guitar strings like a peace offering, even suggested we go to a concert together. She stopped making snide comments about real careers. But I saw through it. These weren't genuine attempts to reconnect. They were transactions, attempts to buy back the old version of me, the one who'd hide his passion to keep the peace. When she handed me the new strings, I said, thanks, but without enthusiasm. I thought maybe we could go to that blues night at the Blue Lantern next weekend, she offered. I'm recording at the studio then, I said. Maybe the weekend after. Tour prep. We leave in 3 weeks, right? The tour. A long pause. Are you even going to miss me? I looked her in the eye. I spent 3 years missing the version of you who supported my music. That person, if she ever existed, I'd miss. This version who tolerates me when it's convenient. No, I won't miss performing for someone who doesn't respect me. Week 2 of her redemption attempt, Midnight Theory announced the EP and tour on social media. Marcus posted a photo of us at rehearsal. I was mid-performance, completely in my element, genuinely happy. Sarah saw it. She commented, so proud. Can't wait to hear the new songs. With a heart emoji. Angela texted me immediately. Interesting comment on your post. Where was this energy for the past year? I replied, performance art. She's good at it when there's an audience. That evening, Sarah brought it up. Did you see my comment on the band's post? I did. Nice for public consumption. Doesn't erase 3 years of private criticism. I'm trying, Jake. You're trying to get something back. That's different from trying to be better. You're performing support because you're losing control, not because you actually respect what I do. Week 3, she suggested we go to the Bluebird Cafe, the place where we'd had our first date. She dressed like that night, a silky emerald dress, subtle makeup, hair softly curled, nostalgia dripping off her like perfume. "Remember our first date?" she asked vaguely. I nodded. "You played that song during open mic. Said you'd never been so nervous." "Probably true at the time," I said without elaborating. "That was the night you told me you wanted to make music your life." "Still do," I said. Finally stopped letting someone talk me out of it. Her nostalgia deflated like a popped balloon. She tried again. "I was thinking maybe I could come to one of your recording sessions. I'd love to see how it all works." I put down my fork. "Why?" "You've had 3 years to show interest. Why now?" "Because I want to support you." "Support me or prove something before I leave for tour?" She couldn't answer honestly. "Real support," I said, "doesn't show up when it's convenient or strategic. It shows up consistently, even when it's not easy. You had 3 years of chances to show up. You chose not to. Now you want credit for showing up when it might be too late. That's not support. That's damage control." On the drive home, I asked the final test. If I keep playing music, keep doing gigs, keep living this so-called childish lifestyle, could you respect it? Not tolerate it, not accept it, but respect it. She hesitated 2 seconds. "I think so. I mean, I'm learning to." "That hesitation," I said, "is my answer. It's not fair to expect unconditional respect for who you are when you couldn't give it yourself for 3 years. 2 weeks before the tour, I came home from a pre-tour band meeting to find Sarah packing a bag. "I'm staying at Emma's for a few days," she said quietly. "Okay," I replied, calm but clear. "I can't do this anymore. I can't be with someone who doesn't love me." I sat down on the couch. Not angry, not upset, just clear. "I never said I didn't love you. You just don't act like you love me. I don't act desperate for your approval. There's a difference. I loved you enough to hide myself for 3 years. Turns out that wasn't love. That was fear. And I'm done being afraid that being myself is too much." She stopped packing, turned to face me. "What's the point of love without compromise? What's the point of compromise without mutual respect? You asked me to compromise my identity. I did it for 3 years. Know what you compromised? Nothing. You got exactly what you wanted, a boyfriend who slowly erased himself to fit your idea of acceptable. I never asked you to erase yourself. You asked me to quit my band, to stop being childish, to grow up. My band is myself. My music is growing up. You just meant grow up into someone you weren't embarrassed by." She was quiet a long moment, then said, "I think we should break up." "I think you're right." She looked surprised I agreed so easily. "You're not going to fight for us." "I fought for us for 3 years, fought to convince you I was worth supporting, fought to be enough while being less. I'm done fighting. If you can't love a musician, then you can't love me. And I'm not changing who I am for anyone ever again." As she finished packing, she paused at the door. "That song you wrote for our anniversary. Can I hear it?" I looked at her long and hard. "No, that song was for someone who respected the person who wrote it. You're not that person." She left. The door closed behind her. I picked up my guitar and started playing. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't stop when someone might be judging me. 6 months later, I was writing in a journal on the tour bus somewhere in North Carolina. The EP had done better than expected. We'd been invited to open for a major indie act. Record labels were showing interest. My phone buzzed. Sarah's name appeared. "I've been thinking about what you said about respect and compromise. I finally understand what you meant. I'm sorry." I typed back, I hope you find someone whose passion you can respect from the beginning, and I hope you learn that loving someone means supporting who they are, not who you wish they'd become. Marcus joined me in the back of the bus. You good, man? Yeah. Just thinking about how much time I wasted trying to be smaller so someone else could feel bigger. I looked down at the guitar in my lap, the set list for tonight's show, the notification that our song just hit 100,000 streams. Now I know my worth, and I'm never negotiating it downward again. The funny thing about stopping childish behavior, it doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. I spent 3 years trying to be worthy of someone who thought my passion was embarrassing. Now I know the most grown-up thing you can do is refuse to apologize for who you are. That night's show was at the Cat's Cradle in Carborough. The crowd was the biggest we'd ever played for. I stepped up to the mic. This next one is called Growing Up. I wrote it for someone who taught me that maturity isn't about giving up what you love. It's about refusing to love someone who makes you give up yourself. The song started. The one I wrote for that anniversary. The one Sarah never heard. It was the best song I'd ever written. And for the first time in 3 years, I was playing it for an audience that actually wanted to listen. But just as the last chord faded, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Are you really done? Because some secrets never stay buried. The night didn't end. It just paused, and I knew the real story was only just beginning.